Amazing truth, how a black waitress's simple observation at midnight saved a billionaire's life. The clock struck midnight, and the neon glow of the diner flickered like an uncertain heartbeat in the chilled city night. Inside, the smell of greasy fries mingled with the sharp scent of burnt coffee, creating an odd comfort. Just then, Tasha, a sharp-eyed waitress with a broad smile that could melt steel, noticed something peculiar. A man sat alone in a booth, a billionaire by the look of him, nondescript in his faded hoodie, but his aura whispered secrets. His gaze was fixed out the window. A storm was brewing, but not just in the sky. She watched his hands tremble as he stirred his uneaten soup, eyes darting like a hunted animal. Tasha felt something stir inside her, like a warning bell ringing in the dead of night. Was it just anxiety? Or was there something more sinister lurking just under the surface? The din of the diner faded as a tense hush fell over them, electrifying the air. And suddenly, all the talk around her stopped. A yell erupted from the parking lot, slicing through the silence like glass. Tasha's heart thudded in her chest. She peered outside and saw two men in black suits, intensity etched across their faces. A scuffle broke out. It was chaotic. She could see a shiny blade glinting in the streetlights. Her instinct kicked in. This was her moment, her responsibility. Tasha couldn't shake the feeling that this stranger was at the center of something dark and dangerous. As the men brawled, Tasha made her way closer, heart racing. Was this all just coincidence? Or were these forces converging to challenge her, to test her? The robberies and strange happenings the town was talking about, was it linked? She felt a lump in her throat, compounded by the pressure of the world spiraling around her. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The scene outside escalated. She turned back to see the billionaire's eyes wide, suddenly alert. Their gazes locked. He seemed to know something she didn't. A sense of urgency passed between them, thick as the tension in the air. Just then, he whispered something barely audible, but it was a question that hung in the air like smoke. Help me. And before she could respond, the diner door swung wide, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows, an ominous presence that cut the tension like a knife. What would happen next? Was she really prepared to dive into this chaos? The pieces were all there, but the picture was far from clear. The door creaked open, and Tasha's heart stopped. A figure stood silhouetted against the flashing neon lights outside, a threatening shadow poised to disrupt whatever fragile peace remained. The air crackled with anticipation. The newcomer stepped inside, pulling their hood down to reveal a face that seemed familiar yet utterly menacing. It was Marcus, a man known for his ties to the underworld. A whisper among diners talked in hushed tones. Tasha's breath hitched in her throat, and she instinctively glanced at the billionaire, who now wore an expression of profound fear mingled with determination. "Get out of my way, Tasha!" Marcus barked, his voice cold and full of authority. "You don't know what you're messing with." His icy gaze landed on the billionaire, and for a moment, it felt like a countdown had begun. The diner's atmosphere morphed into something otherworldly, charged with danger. The patron sat frozen in disbelief, forks suspended in midair. Food cooling on plates, coffee forgotten. Tasha could sense a collective shiver running through the diner, a fear that something unspeakable was about to unfold right in front of them. "Just leave him alone," Tasha shouted before she could think better of it. She stepped forward, her heart pounding in sync with the growing chaos outside. Marcus laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Brave little waitress, aren't you? This isn't a game you want to play." The billionaire's eyes darted from Tasha to Marcus, pleading wordlessly for her to step back. But she felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on her, people whose fate intertwined with her choice. The tension was palpable, like a stretched rubber band ready to snap. "Help me," the billionaire pleaded again, louder this time, desperation clawing at his voice. "You don't understand." Before Tasha could respond, Marcus lunged. The noise erupted in the diner, a crash of tables and chairs as patrons scrambled back, panic erupting into a wave that swept through the room. Tasha moved without thinking, propelled by sheer instinct. She rushed toward the booth where the billionaire was still seated, fear heightening her senses. She grabbed a piece of cutlery, a steel knife, and faced Marcus, who advanced with malicious intent. "Stop," she shouted, though her voice trembled. The eyes of everyone in the diner were locked on her, watching, waiting for what she would do. Would she run? Fight? Or would she cower in fear? Marcus halted, eyes narrowing at the makeshift weapon in her hand. But beyond his bravado, there was a flicker of uncertainty. Tasha could see that he wasn't accustomed to being challenged by an unexpected force. "Do you really think you can protect him?" Marcus scoffed, a sneer twisting his lips. "I'm not just protecting him," she shot back, emboldened by the determined gaze of the billionaire. "I'm standing up for what's right." Words rolled off her tongue before she could second-guess them, standing before a storm that threatened to tear through everything she cared about. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the diner's rear. The door at the far end banged open, and several new figures charged in a sequence set in motion that none could have anticipated. "Drop it!" they shouted, uniforms gleaming in the stark light. Instinctively, Tasha turned to look. A wave of renewed panic surged as the realization hit. This was just the beginning. As they drew nearer, she saw that not all were law enforcement. Some were supporting Marcus, and the line between ally and enemy was rapidly blurring. In that instant, Tasha recognized the true depth of the trouble they were all in. A single choice could alter their fates forever. "Get down!" she yelled, fueling her courage as chaos erupted. The air hung thick with tension, reality had shifted to a point of no return. A shot fired, everything froze. What had she just stepped into? Tasha's heart raced. She didn't know where the shot had come from. The sharp crack echoed against the diner's walls, reverberating into the silence that hung like a fog. Fear and adrenaline surged through her as she crouched low, her knife glinting in the neon light. Time felt distorted, stretching into a surreal eternity. The patrons were paralyzed, forming a tableau of horror. Tasha's eyes darted around the room, desperately searching for the source of the chaos, but her mind could only comprehend the chaos unfolding in front of her. Marcus had pushed past the billionaire, eyes wild, as he shouted commands, taking stock of the new arrivals. "Get out! Back up!" he growled, barking orders to those loyal to him, their faces masks of urgency and violence. Then, from the corner of her eye, she caught sight of a teenager huddled under a table, tears streaming down a dirt-streaked face. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just about survival anymore. If they didn't act, innocent lives were at stake. The billionaire grabbed her arm, tugging her back toward the far wall. "We need to get out," he whispered, voice low but tinged with panic. "They'll kill us both if we stay here." Tasha shook her head, clenching her jaw. "No. We need to help them. We can't just leave. Don't be a hero," he hissed, pulling at her again. But Tasha was done listening to fear. A shout erupted from the back, drawing everyone's attention. A massive figure emerged, fists clenched, one of the law enforcement officers, towering and fierce. "Everyone, step back. You're surrounded." Those words created a split-second pause. A flash of panic rippled through Marcus's crew. Tasha seized the moment, adrenaline locking her legs in place as she approached the nearest table. "Get to the exit," she yelled at the patrons. Her voice, shaky yet determined, cut through the clamor. As chaos unfolded, she caught the billionaire's eyes, urging him to act. He hesitated, then seemed to understand. "All right. Let us go," he yelled, gathering his courage as he pulled Tasha toward the back of the diner. They rushed toward the rear exit just as more shots rang out, ringing in her ears. Tasha felt her heart pounding in her chest, drowning out every rational thought, weighing her down like stone. They burst through the door, skidding onto the wet pavement outside. The cool air hit her like a slap. "We can't leave without the others," Tasha shouted, turning back, but the billionaire grabbed her arm firmly. "They'll be okay. We need to move now." But she could see dark figures spilling out of the diner, furious and wielding weapons. The reality hit her: they were caught in a war of loyalties, with innocent lives hanging in the balance. Before she could say more, a blinding light flooded the street. A police car skidded to a stop, officers rushing out, weapons drawn. They shielded Tasha and the billionaire, creating a barrier against the chaos inside. A breath of relief, but it was short-lived. "No. They're not the good guys," a voice rang out from within the diner. Tasha's heart dropped as she processed the implications. Betrayal simmering beneath the surface. "Move!" an officer shouted. Tasha felt a new surge of courage. There were lives at stake, too many of them. She couldn't be another face in the crowd. She needed to fight to expose the truth behind this chaos, but the line between friend and foe blurred deeper. With a firm grip on the knife, she turned to face the chaos behind her, ready to act, unsure of whom to trust. The moment quivered in silence, waiting for her next move. Would she take a stand for justice, or would the shadows consume her? What was the hidden truth lurking beneath the surface? This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The air outside crackled with tension, thick as smoke. Tasha's heart raced. Her instincts screamed at her to decide. Behind her, the diner loomed with chaos, but in front lay the unknown. The police were supposed to be the answer, but now they felt like part of the problem. "Get behind me," one of the officers shouted, pushing the billionaire further back into the shadows of the alley. Tasha glanced over her shoulder. The scene within was breaking apart. The wail of sirens cut through the night, only amplifying the urgency. She took a step forward, determination flooding her veins like fire. She couldn't leave now. "I'm going back in," she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "No!" the billionaire nearly yelled, panic flaring in his eyes. "They'll kill you. Better me than that kid." She pointed to the table inside, where the teenager still trembled, eyes wide, pleading for help that felt far too distant. Just then, a gun went off, and the sound ricocheted off the walls, sending a shudder down her spine. People on the street scattered, some diving for cover, their screams punctuating the chaos. But Tasha stood her ground. "Stay here," she snapped, breaking free of the billionaire's grip. In that moment, she felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders, and inaction was an unbearable option. She dashed back toward the entrance of the diner, heart pounding in sync with the chaos inside. Light spilled out from the restaurant, illuminating the faces of frenzied patrons and pointing weapons. A familiar roar swallowed her. Marcus's voice cut through. "You're all dead. You don't know who you're dealing with." Tasha hesitated, caught in the eye of the storm. Did she even understand who Marcus truly was? Each second felt eternal as she fought against the fear wrapping around her throat like a noose. As she stepped through the threshold, the riot of sound enveloped her. She could see officers wrestling Marcus to the ground, his crew fighting back, every sense screaming to flee. Then, she caught a glimpse of something out of place: an officer, stone-faced, standing back, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Stop this madness!" she shouted, echoing her earlier resolve but also infusing it with a command. Silence fell only momentarily as everyone turned to eye her. "Why are you here?" the officer facing Marcus demanded, glancing back and forth between the sides, Tasha felt the weight of her will, a potent mixture of liabilities running through her veins. "I'm here to help. We can't let this escalate into a bloodbath." Marcus scoffed, steadying himself. "'Cause you're such a hero, huh? We don't need your help, we're fine." But the uncertainty flickered behind his bravado. Another gunshot rang out, this time closer. A sharp scream splintered the chaos. The teenager's cries erupted once again, and Tasha felt the urgency escalate into a fever pitch. The need to protect outweighed everything else. "I know you think you're invincible, Marcus," she said, locking eyes with him. "But you're not. We're all in danger here. All of us." A heartbeat of silence passed, then chaos erupted once more. Shots rang out faster, shadows leapt into action. Dancing around debris, Tasha made her way through the maelstrom, heart hammering. Then she heard a muffled voice from the left, just as the world spun back into focus. "Get down." A bright flash illuminated the clash in a brilliant white, shattering the darkness, but where was it coming from? Time slowed. Her instincts kicked in, but uncertainty danced just behind. What had she stumbled into? And then, suddenly, she realized it. A voice hollered from the rear exit, cutting through the tumult. "I found it." Tasha turned, eyes wide. But what had they found? She needed to know. What danger had been unleashed, and was there still time to understand it before it consumed them all? In the shadows, the stakes were rising. Each second counted, and she could feel the clock ticking down. What was uncovered would change everything. Would Tasha be ready for what lay ahead? Could she piece together the looming danger lurking in the thick fog of betrayal? The word "found" echoed in her mind, a sharp needle piercing through the crowd's hysteria. Tasha squinted into the haze, trying to locate the source of that crucial voice. The rear exit lay shrouded in shadows, and the flash, a blinding reminder of the danger surrounding them, left her heart racing, her thoughts spinning. She took a cautious step backward, her instinct urging her to retreat, but the images of the kid at the table and Marcus's ferocity held her in place. Behind her, chaos churned, collecting bodies and souls like a dark storm ready to unleash fury. She had to step into the unknown. With a deep breath, Tasha turned and navigated toward the rear. "Stay still." A voice barked from her right. One of Marcus's crew was trying to maneuver, his weapon raised, eyes wild with a cocktail of fear and adrenaline. She pressed herself against the wall. The diner's back hallway was narrow and dimly lit, flickering bulbs above cast jittery shadows that danced like ghosts. She felt a flutter in her stomach. The thought of ducking out silently was tempting, but the muffled cries ahead yanked her back. If they found something, it could change the tide, elevate the threat, or even save them all. Each step forward felt loaded, like walking on eggshells. As she rounded the corner, Tasha's breath caught in her throat. She spotted a rooted figure, a cop kneeling near the rear exit, clenching something dark in his hands. She couldn't decipher it yet, but the intensity of his gaze was unmistakable. "Get away from there!" she shouted, hoping to thwart whatever dread was about to unfold. The officer's head snapped up, eyes wide in disbelief. "You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. Neither is what you've got there." She shot back, moving closer, adrenaline cutting through her fear. "What is it?" He hesitated, then revealed his hand on the object. It glinted ominously. "A detonator," he whispered, as if saying it aloud would summon an unseen horror. Time turned brittle. Tasha's stomach dropped. A trap? Did Marcus know? Her gaze darted back toward the diner. She could feel the crescendo of violence piling behind her, like a dam on the brink of breaking. Do we stop this?" she asked, her voice trembling but firm, wrestling with the madness unfolding around them. "It's rigged. We need to disarm it, but I can't do it alone." A sudden explosion rocked the entryway, the sound of gunfire igniting the tension again. Chaos escalated, and terrified screams filled the air. Tasha instinctively flinched, her heart echoing with every sharp noise, but she couldn't look away from the officer. "Help, or we all die," he urged, desperation crackling in his voice. "We have to get that kid out." Tasha yelled back, her heart in turmoil. She couldn't stand by and let others suffer because of a game she couldn't comprehend. Yet, the stakes soared. "Just hold the crew off. I can buy us time." With an unyielding nod, Tasha lunged back toward the main conflict, ready to wrangle the crowd, when suddenly, a jagged voice chimed in from behind her. "Let her go. We're not leaving without you." It was Marcus, bloody and furious, eyes fixated on her with a mix of fear and determination. He had rallied his crew amidst the gunfire. "We're getting you out." But uncertainty loomed. Which side had she really aligned with? The darkness of betrayal loomed larger. A bullet ricocheted off the wall, singing past her ear. She ducked, pulse racing. The officer's cries faded behind her demands, but she couldn't wrap her mind around what to do next while Marcus offered her his hand so firmly, filled with bravado. "Trust me," Marcus insisted, his voice a lifeline in the storm. But was that trust just another endless loop of deception? With her heart pounding and choices crashing down, Tasha's next move would define everything. The outpouring of loyalty, the jarring weight of decisions, and the truth waiting to be unveiled, everything converged to this very moment. Could she navigate through a night of chaos and deception, or would the shadows claim her too? The answer lay just beyond reach. Tasha's world constricted, every heartbeat drumming in her ears as she faced the storm brewing between Marcus and the chaos inching closer. Her gut twisted, a cocktail of fear and hope swirling violently inside. Each breath was heavier than the last, weighed down by the shadows lurking in the corners of her mind. "Get down!" someone screamed, sending her hurtling behind the diner's flimsy counter, her heart pounding with panic. The world around her spun with confusion, voices of terror tangling with the crack of gunfire. She pressed her back against the cold metal, eyes darting around, searching for the safety that seemed miles away. "Stay low!" Marcus roared, his voice barely carrying above the cacophony. He charged forward, leading his crew with determined ferocity. Tasha's instincts screamed at her to flee, yet the image of that kid, alone and terrified, kept her anchored in place. A quick glance at the officer revealed his frantic attempts to stabilize the detonator. Its appearance called forth dread, every second counted. Tasha fixed her gaze on Marcus as he fought back against the waves of chaos. He had to recognize the urgency. She clenched a fist, unsure. Would it be betrayal to abandon him now? Just as doubt twisted in her core, a flash of movement caught her attention. Another crew member, a nervous kid, possibly new to the life of danger, was positioning himself to fire. "Stop!" Tasha shouted, the words spilling from her lips like a desperate plea. He didn't respond, his face was set, eyes wild with adrenaline. She had to intervene. "Marcus! I need your help!" she yelled, urgency cracking her voice. He caught her eye and bounded toward her, but something shifted in the air, a dark presence pushing back against them. A violent pulse of energy surged from the diner. The mob was growing, people spilling over each other, a living wave of panic. Tasha took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. "We need to." A gunshot rang out, the sound echoing in her bones. The nervous kid staggered back, hitting the ground hard. Panic erupted like a wildfire. "Marcus!" Tasha screamed. "It's escalating. We have to act now." But as she turned to face him, the color drained from his face. The desperation had morphed into awareness. He caught sight of the officer and the detonator. "We can't just leave him," Marcus shouted over the chaos. "He might know how to deactivate it." "Tasha!" The officer's voice sliced through the noise, pleading and raw. "Now! We don't have time." The clock was ticking. Each second lost was a step closer to annihilation. Fear twisted in her throat. Did she really want to dive deeper into this madness? Trust me, Marcus said, his eyes fierce but imploring. We get him, then we get out. It's our only shot. Tasha's mind whirled, caught between urgency and uncertainty. But in that moment, a sense of clarity cut through the fog. She couldn't just think of herself, she had to think of the kid, the officer, everyone trapped in this madness. Without answering Marcus, she sprinted through the din, her feet pounding against the floor, her mind focused solely on the officer. Distract them. She shouted back at Marcus, guns roared, and a sharp wind of chaos rushed past her. Tasha reached the officer, crouching beside him. What do we do? Cut the red wire. He illustrated frantically. Easy, just like that. Her hands trembled, sweaty and slick as she knelt by him, scanning the grim object. The noise of struggle roared behind her, and time slowed. The swirling terror and the uncertainty closed in. Did she have what it took to dismantle this darkness? Before she could make a move, a deafening explosion rocked the diner, a blast of noise and heat that threw her against the wall. The world went blank, drenched in smoke and screams. Amid the chaos, a figure emerged from the haze, thin, grotesque, with a weapon raised. Tasha's heart sank. The last truth she needed to uncover was about to unfold, and she wasn't prepared for it. Would she be the one who saved them or the next victim in this game of shadows? The answer loomed, and the clock ticked ominously toward midnight. The blast sent Tasha sprawling, a ringing in her ears swallowing the chaos. Smoke enveloped her, thick and choking, melding fear with despair. She blinked through the darkness, trying to get her bearings as the world spun. Between gasps, she felt the heat still radiate from the explosion, its aftereffects crackling in the air. Get up! Marcus's voice broke through the haze, urgent and commanding. Tasha's heart raced, she pushed herself off the ground, the cold metal of the diner's floor grounding her again. But the figure still loomed, shadow-like and menacing, barely visible in the smoke. It raised its weapon, and panic surged through her like ice water. Tasha ducked behind a toppled table, her pulse thrumming in her temples. Each sound of chaos outside felt magnified, echoing in the disturbing stillness for just a moment longer. Marcus! She hissed, spotting him out of the corner of her eye. He was struggling to fend off a mob member intent on their destruction. The chaos seemed to envelop them, swirling like a storm. How could she help him now? Her instincts kicked in. She glanced around for something, anything. The heavy metal sign swung dangerously above her, precariously hanging from the diner ceiling, creaking like a playful whisper promising destruction. Tasha's breath quickened, and she shot up again with newfound determination. Hey! She yelled, trying to divert the attention of the rogue figure. Over here! The figure turned, startled at her defiance. Tasha seized the moment, bolting toward Marcus, who was wrestling with another combatant. The desperation in his eyes pushed her forward, urging her to act. A burst of adrenaline coursed through her. She snatched an empty bottle from the floor, feeling its weight in her hand. With a swift motion, she tossed it toward the figure, glass shattering with a satisfying pop. The distraction worked, momentarily pulling his focus. Marcus! We need to move now. Tasha yelled, desperation lining her voice. But Marcus was still locked in struggle, his gaze locked on the officer trapped beneath debris. No. They didn't have time for this. Every second was a countdown to chaos. Tasha lunged forward, grasping Marcus's arm. We have to get out. We can't just. But then she saw it. A flicker of hope shimmering between the smoke. The officer's hand reached for the detonator, barely within grasp. Before she knew it, Tasha dove toward him, adrenaline eclipsing all caution. She threw herself towards the officer, grappling for the detonator with shaking hands. Don't! Shouted Marcus, recognizing the danger, but it was too late. She knew all eyes would be on her. The chaos was heavy, but she had to break it if they wanted to live. The detonator lay just beyond her reach, glinting ominously in the scattered light. An explosion of noise shattered her focus, the nearby windows blew outward, sending shards flying. She ducked as nearby people screamed, heads turning in shock. The crowd surged toward the exit, the belligerent tone rising as panic spread. "Go! Just go!" Tasha screamed to Marcus. But he hesitated, torn between his duty to protect her and the urgency of the situation. If only he would listen. Almost there, she stretched, fingertips just grazing the cold metal. The officer's breaths were labored, heart pounding. The detonator didn't just represent doom, it encapsulated their chance of survival, but the figure was back looming, ready to close in on them again. "No!" Tasha shouted in a wild burst of fury. She pushed her fear aside, summoning every ounce of strength. She lunged for the device, gripping it tightly as if fate itself hinged on her actions. And in that moment, she felt a surge of power, almost magnetic, as if the world had paused just for her. Would she defuse the destruction before it consumed them all? Or had she just locked them into a nightmare from which they could never escape? Tasha's heart raced as everything hung in the balance. Time was ticking and she knew that one wrong move could change everything. Tasha's fingers closed around the detonator, the metallic surface cold against her skin. Panic coursed through her as she registered the weight of the device. Could she really stop it? Would it be that simple? The figure loomed closer, a dark silhouette against the smoke, weapons glinting menacingly. "Marcus!" she yelled, her voice breaking through the chaos. He was still fighting, each movement frantic as he wrestled the mob member. The desperation etched on his face fueled her resolve. Somehow, they had to survive this. Just as the figure lunged towards her, Tasha's instincts kicked in. She pressed down on the detonator, praying it would disarm the impending disaster. A low hum vibrated through her fingers as lights began to flicker ominously. "No!" The figure's voice cut through the air like a knife. He charged at Tasha, eyes wide with fury and determination. Tasha's heart pounded in her chest. She ducked instinctively, rolling to the side as the thug missed her by inches. From her new position on the floor, she saw Marcus fighting. He was fierce and relentless, but the odds were against him. "Marcus, I've got it!" Tasha shouted, still gripping the detonator tightly. "We can save everyone. Just don't blow it up." He called back, grappling with the mob member. She could see him struggling not just for their lives, but also for the lives of the bystanders who were now inching toward the exits in a panic. She couldn't breathe. The noise, the fear, it all rose like smoke choking her. She had to focus. With trembling hands, she peered down at the detonator. There were 3 switches, one marked green, the other red, and the last yellow. Which one would stop the destruction? "Get out of there!" Marcus's voice echoed around her, filled with urgency. "I can't hold him much longer." The figures around her blurred into a haze. Tasha's mind raced. What do I do? The world seemed to narrow to just her and the detonator, each ticking second feeling like a lifetime. She felt a wave of frustration crash over her. Think. She murmured to herself. All around, the chaos rose higher, shouts, screams, fists connecting with flesh. Suddenly, she locked eyes with the officer, still pinned under debris. In that moment, clarity broke through the chaos. The green switch. Before she could second-guess herself, she pressed it down hard. A loud beep filled the air, as if the world held its breath. Then, silence. Everything stilled for just a heartbeat, then erupted into a series of pulsing lights from the detonator, bathing the diner in shades of eerie green. The figure faltered, confusion etched across his face. "What did you do?" He spat, and just like that, time resumed its blaring pace. Marcus took advantage of the distraction, elbowing his assailant hard in the gut and sending him sprawling. "Now! We've got to get the others out!" he shouted, darting toward Tasha, the crowd was still surging toward the exit, a tide of panic and fear. Tasha held her breath, but the signal from the detonator pulsed a quiet reassurance. Maybe, just maybe, they had a fighting chance, but as Tasha caught sight of the officer, struggling against the rubble, a new explosion of smoke erupted nearby. She recoiled. Something wasn't right. Had she miscalculated? A menacing laugh echoed in the distance, chilling her to the bone. The figure that she thought she had deterred raised his weapon again, fury lighting his eyes. "Neither of you will escape that easily," he shouted, and in that instant, Tasha felt her heart drop, fear skated down her spine as shadows seemed to deepen around them. The chaos wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. "Marcus!" Tasha yelled, adrenaline spiking as she backed toward him. What was the next move? Would they find a way out of this nightmare, or had they just awakened a greater danger? The air hung heavy with uncertainty as the figure advanced, weapon raised high. Tasha knew they'd have to act fast. She glanced at Marcus, determination burning in her eyes. "Whatever happens next, we do it together," she said. But would they truly be ready for what was about to unfold? Tasha's heart raced as she locked eyes with Marcus, the tension tightening around them like a noose. The mobster was closing in, weapon glinting ominously in the flickering green light. Every instinct screamed at them to flee, to find safety away from the chaos. But where? The diner was now a battlefield. "Move!" Marcus shouted, but Tasha hesitated. The officer was still trapped under the debris. He needed help. "No. We can't leave him." Tasha shot back, her voice trembling. The thug's laughter echoed like a haunting melody, twisting the panic in Tasha's gut. "You really think you can save him?" he taunted. "You've already made your choice." "Shut up." Marcus lunged forward, but the figure sidestepped, quick and ruthless. Tasha's breath hitched as she watched Marcus struggle against his opponent, each move calculated but growing desperate. The detonator's lights pulsed like a heartbeat in her palm, a reminder of the control she hoped she had. Was it enough? Should she risk it again? "Get out! Now!" Marcus shouted again, his eyes wide with fear and ferocity. Every moment lingered like an echo, the world outside had faded into a distant whisper. It was just them and the looming threat. Suddenly, Tasha spotted the scattered patrons, most of them crying or frozen in shock. They weren't just afraid, they were paralyzed by the chaos. "Marcus, we need to rally them." "What? Are you crazy?" he gasped as he threw a punch that caught the mobster off guard. "It's every man for himself." "No." Tasha snapped, and in that moment, an idea sparked. What if I can create a distraction? Without hesitation, she steadied her grip on the detonator, eyeing the red switch. What if she could buy them time? Just a few seconds could mean the difference between life and death. Tasha's breath caught as she pressed the red switch. A deafening alarm blasted through the diner, causing everyone to momentarily freeze. Marcus glanced back at her, realization dawning. "You're insane." But the thug was now distracted, his eyes darting wildly as the alarm rang. "You think that's going to help? You're all going to die." "Maybe," Tasha yelled back, her voice strong, "but not before we give everyone a fighting chance." The once chaotic diner now felt as if it was caught in a slow-motion world where every breath, every heartbeat, echoed her resolve. Even as fear gripped her heart, Tasha felt the surge of adrenaline drown it out. She took a deep breath. "Now! Everyone, follow me." In that moment, she saw the clouds of panic lift. A few brave souls began to move, slowly at first, then breaking into a full sprint towards the lesser-worn exit at the back of the diner. "Marcus, help them!" Tasha yelled as he continued to fight. "Get moving. I've got your back." He grunted, sending blows that echoed like thunder through the diner. Tasha dashed toward the crowd, her mind racing. She caught glimpses of terrified faces, eyes wide with disbelief. "This way!" she shouted, urgency and hope battling for dominance in her voice. Just then, the laughter of the figure sliced through her, sharper than any weapon. "You can't run forever," he sneered, and the weight of his words cast a shadow over her resolve. It was in that moment that the loud crash of glass interrupted the din. The diner's windows erupted violently, sending shards spiraling through the air. Tasha stumbled, shielding her face from the debris, fear freezing her in place. What was happening? More of them. From the chaos, a group of masked individuals emerged, aggressors with their own agenda. Tasha felt her blood run cold as she grasped the reality this was a trap. "Marcus!" she screamed, her voice lost in the cacophony as the panic swelled once more. They were outnumbered, and the imminent danger crushed her composure. He turned, eyes wide. "Tasha, we need to go." "What about the others?" she asked, desperation flooding her tone. But there was no time. An explosion of sound shattered the air as one of the masked figures raised their weapon. "Run!" Marcus roared. As Tasha turned to flee, a flare of light erupted from the detonator, blinding her momentarily. And in that instant, she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Had they just awakened the real nightmare? The world spun as she sprinted into the unknown, leaving chaos behind. But with each step she took, doubt gnawed at her. Where did this road lead? Would they truly escape the horrors that awaited? Was their nightmare only beginning? The diner was a war zone, every corner engulfed in chaos and despair. Tasha pushed through the bodies, adrenaline flooding her veins as the din of gunfire and shouts melded into a frantic symphony of fear. Her heart raced, not just for herself, but for everyone still inside, urging them to safety. Would they all make it out alive? As she darted behind the bar, she spotted the police officer still trapped, fighting against the rubble. She couldn't abandon him. "We can't leave him," she shouted over the din, her voice firm. "Forget him," Marcus yelled back, engaging another thug who rushed at him. "We need to get out." But Tasha felt the pull of responsibility. Not without him. With a mount of courage, she turned back and ran toward the officer. Each stride felt heavier, fear clawing at her throat. "Help is coming. I promise," she urged while grasping for the fallen debris that pinned him. "Get out. Now!" he screamed, but the urgency in her heart drowned out all alarms. If not her, then who? Behind her, chaos spiraled faster. The sound of exploding glass and menacing laughter echoed in the air. She shut her eyes for a brief second, grappling with the realization of being swallowed by darkness. "Focus," she whispered to herself. Just then, she felt a breath of fresh air mingle with the burning smoke. It ignited an ember of hope within her. She summoned her strength, digging deeper and lifting debris to free him. "Come on," she urged, muscles straining. With the officer finally pulling free, relief washed over Tasha. "You did it," he gasped, gratitude shimmering in his eyes. "Now we get everyone out." "Absolutely," she agreed as the loud crack of gunfire punctured the air again, making them both flinch. They sprinted toward the exit where a surge of patrons still stood frozen. The din of panic and terror poured into their ears. Tasha squeezed into the thinning line, shouting, "This way. Come on." But as they turned, a mass of figures swarmed in, cloaked and aggressive. Tasha's breath quickened, they had been cornered. Fear slithered through her, binding her with icy grip. "Don't stop," Marcus shouted, determination fueling his words as he grabbed Tasha and the officer. "We're moving. Now." His presence was a lifeline, propelling them toward the opening created by swirling chaos. As they dashed forward, Tasha felt the shadows closing in behind her. Gunshots echoed, and she raced harder, desperately trying to break free. "Keep running," she shouted to the crowd, leading them forward with hope. suddenly, a loud bang erupted from the back, and a shockwave of fire surged toward them. She could almost hear the nightmares rushing to swallow them whole. But in that moment, the detonator's eerie green light flickered ominously, casting a luminescent glow over the chaos, showing a path through the insanity. "Get to cover!" the officer yelled, and they ducked behind a booth as flames ignited further down the diner. "This isn't over!" Tasha screamed, determination blazing like wildfire in her chest. She had a mission now, to protect, to survive. "We make a stand." In that fervent moment, clarity emerged amid the madness. Marcus, the officer, the innocent people, they formed an unbreakable chain. "Together!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the din. "We get everyone out." As the last of their marbles clashed, she caught a glimpse of the teenager still huddled beneath a table, eyes wide with fear. "I'll get him," she declared, surging forward. Without second-guessing, she ran toward that table, heart pounding like a war drum. Reaching down, she grabbed the kid's shaky hand. "Let us go. You're safe now." Together, they raced back to the doors of the diner, flames licking close. With every step, Tasha could feel the electric pulse of survival sparking. It was a race against time, and they were dead set on not losing. As the last group rushed through the exit, sirens wailed through the thickening fog, echoing the dawn of justice. "This ends tonight," Marcus shouted, pulling Tasha back as he glanced at the advancing shadows. Around them, the chaos began to dwindle as more patrons emerged from the diner, relief washing over the crowd. But there was no time to celebrate yet. The line between safety and danger remained fragile. Behind them, Tasha saw the flickering lights intensify. The detonator had sparked the flames. "We have to move, now," she cried, pushing the last few stragglers toward the street. The officer rallied with them, urging everyone forward as they left the diner behind, a collapsing fortress of terror. As the safety of the street lay ahead, Tasha turned to Marcus, who bore the weight of the world on his shoulders. "We did it," she gasped, disbelief tingling in the depths of her heart. But in the dark shadows, the menacing figure lingered, watchful and hungry. "We did for now," he sneered, his laughter echoing into the night. "No more shadows," Tasha declared, refusing to let fear shackle her will. "We're taking our lives back." This wasn't just the end, it was their bold new beginning. With a united front, every single person would stand against the tumult. Turning their back on the dawn of a new day, they wouldn't just survive, they would thrive. They all began walking towards the rising sun, the once pale horizon painted gold, promising brighter days ahead. Breaking free from the past, they would keep fighting, shoulder to shoulder, claiming their world one step at a time. Now, they had one mission: move forward. Together. But before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support by smashing the like button now to feed the algorithm. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters in this community.